to listen to radio.
Are you ready, Steve? Andy? Yeah! Bert? Well, all right, fellas. Let's go!
You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Today's broadcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/CFRN. Over 85,000 titles. Choose from mystery, romance, religion, science, technology, business, New York Times bestsellers, even children's books. You name it, Audible has it. With 85,000 titles to choose from, you're sure to find the perfect audiobook for yourself or to give as a gift, and it's absolutely free. Just point your browser to audibletrial.com/CFRN. That's audibletrial.com/CFRN. And become a part of the audiobook revolution by downloading your free audiobook today. audibletrial.com/CFRN.
Hey, trader, want to get rich quick? Well, good luck with that. If, on the other hand, you actually want to learn how to trade, the place to be is www.CFRN.net. Tune in Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern for our daily devotional, and then spend the next 3 hours learning how it's done from professional traders who actually trade for a living. That's www.CFRN.net. Every trading day from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro, and even T-bills. Joining us today from our studios in Boston, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Thursday, 12th day of March, 2020. Thanks so much for joining us. Whoever you are, wherever you are, we're just glad to have you right here, right now. If you can't see the screen I have up, go to our homepage at CFRN.net. On the right-hand side of the page, click the big microphone, follow the instructions. You'll be registered in about 30 seconds. And that will give you one-click access to the show each and every day. On the days you're out of the office, away from the desktop, not to worry, point any internet-connected browser to CFRN.net/live, and there you'll find a live, real-time simulcast of the show as it unfolds. You'll also find us streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and coming soon to TradingView. So, quite the day, eh? You got the markets, you got the virus, and I guess the two are inextricably linked. I think we should just open in prayer. Father, we just pray for the world right now. This attack of the enemy, this virus, whatever it is, wherever it was cooked up, whoever's responsible, ultimately we know that's the enemy. And you guys have been doing battle since time began. So Father, we just pray for everyone affected, for those who are sick, those who are recovering, for the families of those that have been lost. Father, we just turn this over to you. We trust you. We put our faith in you. And in Jesus' name, we pray. Okay. All right. well, let's take a look at the carnage on the daily chart. We had this inside day yesterday, which I had hoped might be some little technical signal that perhaps the worst had passed, but obviously it hasn't. Now, we did Fibonacci extensions early on from the swing high, which was 33.9750. Now, this is on the continuous chart. Down to the swing low, up to the retracement high. So we hung out at this 62% Fib extension for 3 trading sessions. And then last night, well, tail is in the tape. There it is. Now, let me take this off for a moment. Let's bump this up to a weekly. Now, that looks dramatic. That's your weekly. All right. So where are we headed? Well, right here, this week marked the end of the worst December since 1932. Right here. It's green because when we go back to the daily chart, you can see it. The day after Christmas is when the market put in this low down at 23.1675, and during that same session created an incredible bullish engulfing candle that led to arguably one of the most impressive rallies the market has ever seen. So are we heading back to the December 2018 lows? Well, I can say this, on a weekly chart, that is the next obvious place for the market to find support based purely on technicals. Those brave souls that were willing to come in and buy this market at the low 23.1675, well, they certainly had an opportunity to reap their reward over the past year and a half now, I guess, almost. And so if we revisit this area, would we expect to find buyers? Would we expect to find support? Again, from a technical perspective, absolutely. If nothing else, should be good for quite a bounce. Now, do we have to go there? Well, we're sitting at 2,500 right now in the S&P. That would take us down roughly to 2,300 area, 2,350. So, no, there's no requirement that we have to go there. But it looks difficult to avoid at this point. I find it interesting. Schools are still open, but our well-paid athletes, we're taking preemptive measures to protect them. Yeah, no, I understand. It's so that the crowds in attendance don't get affected, not the prized racehorse. All right, so potential support. Support. And these two, we can almost lump them together at this point. These markets are so huge. And then if that escapes us, $1,800 from the all-time high up at, we'll call it 3,400. 17, do my math right, 1,700, that would be the market getting a 50% haircut, as it's called. Is it possible? Anything's possible. At some point, the collective consciousness around the world will wake up one morning and go, hey, wait a minute. Instead of this looks risky, the collective consciousness will say, wow, this looks like one heck of an opportunity. And everyone will come piling in, as they did on December the 26th of 2018, which sparked this incredible rally. Now, if we go to a monthly, here's what a monthly chart looks like. And I don't know if I'm going to get more data on this platform or not. If I don't, we'll pull it up on the other platform. All right. Here we are. January, February, March. No doubt the worst March, I'm going to assume, in the history of the markets. So, let me give you the numbers from around the world and put things in a little bit of perspective as to where we are, along with the rest of the world. Now, the president spoke last night, and he spoke, I suppose, just the truth. He made the decisions that he felt were prudent for our country, for the health and safety of every American. The markets obviously were not calmed or soothed by what he had to say, because as he spoke, things got real bad. All right. Currently, the Dow is down. These are just today's numbers. This isn't, I'm not talking about the month of March. I'm talking about today, this session, which began last night for us at 6 p.m. Eastern. That's when Globex opens. Currently, the Dow down 2,136 points. That's a drop of 9%. NASDAQ down 638 points. That's a drop of 8%. S&P 500 down 225 points. Again, a drop of more than 8%. And the Russell 2000 down 129 points. That's 10.25%. In the commodity basket, crude oil down $1.91, trading 31.07 last. That's a drop of almost 6%. Gold down $70.70, trading 1571.60 last. That is a drop of over 4%. In the Asian markets at the close, Nikkei posted a loss of 856 points. It's about 4.5%. Shanghai dropped 45. It's 1.5%. And the Hang Seng dropped 922. That's a loss of 3.5%. In the European markets at the close, FTSE down 539 points. It's a little over 10%. DAX down 1,238 points. It's a drop of almost 12%. And the CAC down 571. That's a drop of over 12%. Needless to say, it is a red day in Asia, a red day in the UK, and a red day here in the US of A. Now, I don't know if Michael is here yet.
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right. Well, if you want to grab it and run with it, you certainly can.
Okay. Okay, and I have, there's a couple of things that need to be thought about right now. Beside, all the disaster that there is and all that that's happening.
Right.
margins. Because, we trade futures, and the margins on the ES are full right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the initial margin is $9,185. So that's up from like 3,000. So it's like 300% gain on the margin.
Mm-hmm.
And the margin on, I think that's crude. Hang on, let me go see. No, the euro, $2,145. Margin on crude, 4,510. Margin on gold, 6,600. These are the brokers trying to protect themselves.
That margin on crude, 4,500. That's all things considered. Interactive brokers, they charge $7,500 margin on crude on a normal day.
Yeah, I mean,
intraday.
It's going to vary from broker to broker because they're just trying to protect themselves.
Sure.
From having to make margin calls. But just the fact that the normal margin on the ES,
right?
It was $500 intraday,
right?
And about $3,000 overnight, and now it's up to 9,000.
I thought the overnight was 6,000.
No, right now it's 9,100.
Well, it may be 91 now, but I think previously it was 6,000.
Yeah,
because that micro is a tenth, and I think the margin for that's 600 and change. So
it was. Anyway. I don't know what it is right now.
Yeah, I have no.
MES.
Yeah, MES. Yeah, I have no idea.
Let me go check. Hang on, let me add that symbol. Plus MES. See, okay on that. And the margin on that is now 918.
Okay.
So that's going up 50%.
Okay. So I think that's what happened. Is I think the regular ES went from $6,000 to $9,000, and the little guy went from 600 to 900. Yeah, I think that's what happened. So
yeah.
Well, so guys, I mean, there's no reason to be trading. We've said this over and over. I mean, we continue to do the room every morning. I reluctantly went ahead and sent out the Concierge Trade Alerts last night.
But you killed it with the Trade Alerts.
Well, yeah, but my hesitancy is that these markets are just so volatile. You don't know, what's going to happen next. But yeah, so anyone that traded them to the short side has sure got a big smile on their face today, and this bell's for you. So,
well, I mean, this morning in the room, stuff was moving around so fast. I wasn't in it as much as I was yesterday. Where I was up so much yesterday. Mm-hmm. But I was still up. I got my goal, quickly, and I was trying to follow along with everything that was going on, with all the markets that were going on. I was trying to follow along, and in this recap today, there's no way that I'm going to show every single trade. I'm just going to show the ones that we actually did and the ones that I highlighted.
Okay.
And, we were up pretty good today on the morning session. So, in hindsight, it's kind of funny. Well, to me, it's kind of funny when I wanted to hit our daily average. And so we're up $400 a contract, and we needed just a couple hundred more. I was like, I will do that. It's going to be easy. And it was. It was. But.
So they're saying this is the worst day for the Dow since the October '87 crash. Wow.
See, and, I don't know how we can help people understand that, equities, they can be great, and they're asset backed, which is what John would say. But in markets like this where it's just crazy, like the margins right now, and not the margins, but the liquidity right now. Look at gold. 66, 116. Look at the ES. And the euro. I mean, when have the ES and the euro ever been equal? You know, the euro is probably the most sane market right now. These are my DOMs.
Interesting.
That's what I trade on. And, you know, the euro is probably the most sane market right now. It's not bouncing around so much. And, you know, today I was going through stuff, you know, doing training instead of trading. And I had to use the euro because the ES is just crazy. But anyway, how can this be worse? Well, it was 22.6% of 1,000, Bill. You know, you got to think of your starting point. And percent is percent. That is correct.
Well, the Dow is lower by about 2,200 points at the session low.
At the session low, and I don't know what percent that is on it. But, you know, from October of '87, I mean, I remember when that happened. I was in the Air Force, and I don't remember his name. He was a master sergeant, and he said, my retirement just dropped 30%. I said, just wait, it'll come back. And, you know, of course, I was a big mouth at 18. But okay, let's get into it.
You ready? All right, take it away.
I'm ready. All right, here we go. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Today is Thursday, the 12th day of March, 2020. If you have not taken a free trial with us, what I want you to do is go to the homepage at CFRN.net, and you go to any one of these green buttons, or even up here on the right-hand column, there's a button. You can click on any one of those, and it's going to bring you to this page. Okay, on this page, all we ask for is your name, your email, your phone number, and you can tell us your biggest trading challenge so we can tailor one-on-one training specifically for you. All right. Then you hit the send button. You're going to be sent a confirmation link. You must click on the confirmation link. If you don't do that, we don't know that you took the free trial. So you got to click that link. Okay. Now I'm gonna slide this over here for a second. Well, for a couple of seconds. Okay. Here is the spreadsheet. Did you say the SD trade margin is 9,000? They're on full margins right now, and it's 91.50, I think, right now, Bill. Well, it depends on your broker. You know, the IB is who determines. Well, I mean, you know, the FCM can determine it, but okay. Let me talk about it this way. There's the introducing broker, which, you know, for us is Daniel's Trading, but it could be, you know, Global, Apex, Stage 5, Canon, you know, a whole bunch of them. Underlying that is the FCM, the Futures Commission Merchant. And so the FCM really has the determination, or, you know, the ability to determine what they're going to be. And they can tell all the IBs that this is what it is. And the IBs have to, you know, they have to stick by it. But the IBs themselves, you know, they want to protect themselves because they don't want to lose money, and they don't want to have margin calls, and they don't want to do all that stuff. So they're going to set whatever it is. You know, they're going to set the margin to whatever they want to set it at, just to protect themselves from losing money. You know, because, you know, if somebody goes under, and then they have to, you know, then the IB has to have some kind of way of getting it back. And usually it's going to be a whole bunch of legal fees and all that stuff, and they don't want to get involved in that. And Daniels Trading is very good about that. So when things get out of control, they're going to see it, and they're going to up the margins so that people who can't afford to trade don't trade, and the people who can't afford to trade, well, they can afford it. And so yeah, that's the way that it works. And I gotta say, Daniels Trading is really cautious, and they're really good about it. But they don't want to have to make margin calls. They don't want to have to say, hey, you know what? Your account went under by $1,500, and you owe us $1,500, and you can't trade. And then whoever it is may say, well, you know what? I don't have $1,500, and then there's the argument of how they're going to get that $1,500, because right now Daniels Trading is on the hook for that. So that's why they're so cautious. Okay. And everybody needs to realize that they're protecting themselves by upping the margins, and I don't blame them. I don't. Not even a little bit. And I can't believe I didn't get a message. I was talking to Bert about it yesterday. I said, why didn't you get a message that the margins were upgraded? And he was actually surprised that he didn't get a message either. But that's the way that the margins work. Okay. When you're trading it in equities and you're trading on margin, I mean equities, I mean stocks, and you're trading on margin, you got to have 25,000 in your account, and you can only short on an uptick. So there's a bunch of crazy rules when it comes to equities, but in futures, they minimize all that stuff, so you can get in and get out and do all that stuff really fast. But the markets are just crazy, and I mean they're fun. I mean they're fun for me. I mean look at my look at they're fun for me, but they're not fun for everybody. If you learn our trading system, and you can get in there and get out, fast enough, then that's where you want to be. Okay, so back to what I was saying. If you're going to read the spreadsheet, you got to read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Today is the 12th day of March. Almost the Ides. And tomorrow I'm supposed to go to casino and see a comedian. I'm not so sure about that now that Macy's cruise is canceled. But anyway, we made 26 on crude, 27 ticks on gold, and on the ES we made 32. So we're up $870 a contract this morning. Today, it took 16 minutes, not really, because I was 5 minutes late, and 3 trades to get to the goal for the day. And at that point, our first trade, we were up $200 a contract, and we took 12 trades this morning. And 12 trades out of the number of trades that were available this morning, 12 is like probably a tenth of what were available across these 4 markets. But anyway, on the month now, we're up $5,837. That's over 9 trading days, and we're averaging $648 per day. Now that was $612 earlier. And this morning I sort of Fuad kind of challenged me and said, we have to get that higher. And I did. And I said, that'll be easy. And then I stopped out and then had to make it back. Anyway, it's fun trading right now. On the year now, we're at $12,709 a contract. That's for 45 days, and we're averaging $284 per day. Okay. So I'm not going to go through it all because there is just so much to go through. I mean, you look at this leg right here. Look at this leg. There, 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 there. And then changed without giving us a trade. And then there, there, there. And then it changed without giving us a trade. There. I mean, the markets are so tradable. Using our trading strategy, the markets are so tradable right now. Yeah, the markets are just so tradable right now. It's incredible. And, you know, a couple of years ago, we used to have this guest speaker that came on and said, "These are the good old days. These are the good old days." It's not going to be like this for long, but let's take advantage of it while we can. And, you know, yesterday I just focused on trading. I mean, focused on trading. And today I was doing both trading and training. But I know I could have gotten, a lot more per contract. So let's just start out here. Okay. There was a short trade right here from 1607.2 that ran down without hesitation to 1601.6. So, I mean, you got $1,000 a contract right there. And then it went sideways, and right about here is when I got involved. And what did I have on gold today? I had a bunch of trades, so we should be seeing them soon. There was a long trade here, a long trade there. Here we go. The first trade on gold was 20 ticks right there. Bang. And so we took off the gold for the day. And so, if you stick to our mantra of put the mouse away when you get the gold for the day, you would have stopped right there. But it was so fun. It was. And I mean, there were a ton of trades in here, but I was doing other trades at the same time. So they would trade there, trade there, trade there, trade there, trade there. And, I can't go through them all right now because we'll be here till about, 7 o'clock tonight. But on the way down, there was a trade there. 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 Flip it around, and there was a trade there, there, there. That would have been a break even there. And flip it around again, and there's a trade there. I mean, when I say flip it around, you understand what I mean, right? I mean, the market's just jumping all over the place and going in different directions. Somebody answer me. You understand what I mean, right? I'm still waiting for an answer. Valerie, you understand what I mean, right? You're right to the heart. Okay, thanks, Tim. And then, the slingshot got all messed up in here, and it was going sideways. So there wasn't really anything you could do. But there was so much opportunity. So much opportunity. When we picked up, what did we pick up here? Went from 20 to 30. So there was a trade here, and then while I was writing it down, there was another trade there. And we had a break even. I think, if we look at it on the well, I'm not going to, I'm just going to back it out. Okay. So there were a bunch of trades all in here, but you got to watch the slingshot. And what I say on days like today is look at the slingshot first. Okay, look at the slingshot first. We had a break even right there. Look at the slingshot first, because that's what's going to tell you what's going on. Like right here, I mean, I know this is tiny to you, but there was a huge move up and another huge move up. And then it got all choppy and we didn't do anything. Then we had another trade here that, let's see, we stopped out on. This one, I think we stopped out on, or this one, we stopped out on. And that was our stop out for today. And so we went from 31 to 23. And then there was a ton of opportunity here, but it was going so fast that, you know, it was hard for me to keep up with it. And, you know, I wanted to stay in the 4-tick time range. But if we flip to the 5-minute, you know, it's a little clearer, but, you know, not as much opportunity. And so, you know, after yesterday, I just wanted to stick to the 4-tick time range. And so now we get into the break. Somewhere in there, we got another trade where we picked up 4 ticks. I don't know where that is. It's right here, I think. We picked up 4 ticks after the stop out. And then there was just, you know, a ton more opportunity. Do you see how it's moving right here? Let me pull that up just a little bit. You see how it's moving in here? Short trade. Short trade. We didn't get anything there. Change directions. Long trade. Long trade. Okay. So you all pretty much get the picture, right? The indicators were giving us the proper indications. I mean, what they should do. And if you were following them, starting out right now with the slingshot, if you were following the slingshot, you know, buying any dips, selling any rises, it wasn't hard to make a lot of money today. Now, that was just gold. and you know, the euro is going to be, well, actually, the euro was pretty good today. The euro was, out of all the markets, the euro was probably the most calm market. And, you know, and it gave us a bunch of opportunity. But we ended up with gold, we ended up with gold plus 27 ticks. But on the euro, I got into this trade and I forgot I had it on. And I went all the way down here and came back up and gave me a break even. But I laugh about it now. Yeah, I'll be mad at myself later. But on the euro, there was a bunch of opportunity. There was a short there, a short there, a short there, a long there, a short there, a short there. And that's the one we finally took. Here on this long opportunity, there was a long here for that huge leg up. And a follow-up long right there. Now, look at the slingshot. See what it's doing. Because that's, I mean, it's telling the picture. It's painting it for you. You know, a short there, a short there. Look, a short there, a short there. Look at the slingshot. You know, of all the indicators we have, if you just know how to read price action and look at the slingshot, you really don't need anything else. You know, the MA1, of course, is, you know, the backbone. But if you look at the slingshot and you can read price action, which is, you know, what what I try to teach in the morning, but you don't hear me saying that, but I'm trying to get your mind in that way where you can read it, where you can see it happening. You can see it all coming together. But anyway, it happened over and 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 over. And so on the euro today, we actually broke even because they only had one trade because they had so many other things going on. Okay, now crude. I'm going to have to back crude out. Okay, we only had a couple of trades on crude, but there were a ton available. Look at the slingshot. You see this? Green line up here, cycle down here. Green line up here, cycle down there. Green line up here, cycle down there. Green line up here. Uh-oh. So right in here. And there is so much opportunity. Green line down here, cycle up there. Green line down here, cycle up there. So look at the price and see what's happening with that. When the markets are like this, I mean, it's like they're manic. It's like my ex-wife right before court date. They were up and down and up and down and up and down. And, unfortunately, I don't have a cycle indicator for my ex-wife. but what I do have for you guys is a cycle indicator for us. And green line up here. See, green line up here, cycle down there. Green line up here, cycle down there. Now, I don't catch every trade. Yesterday I really tried yesterday to catch as many as I could, and I was up $1,700 a contract. So, that's pretty good. And today, it could have been the same today. It could have been, but I was, after yesterday, it's exhausting for me. Because you don't know what I'm doing behind the scenes. And, I'm doing my best to do everything for you. And so right there, we shorted on the crude and we picked up 10 ticks. And over here, we shorted on the crude and we picked up another 10. There were a bunch of other opportunities right here, right there, right here, right there. And that's only a part of it. If you look down at the slingshot and you watch that, like, look at this leg down right here. This was during the break, but look at that leg down. And how could it be spelled out any better down here? Say, uh-oh. Right here, we're going to go down. We're going to go down. We're going to go down. Bang. Uh-oh. We're going to do it again. Bang. Oh, we're going to do it again. Bang. Okay. Now you see right here, the green line pulled up farther than the former green line. So, okay. We're probably going to go down. And right here, the cycle pulled up. Okay. We're not likely to go down. We did. And right here is the 164, where it did end up going down. Then over here, change of direction. And up it went. It can't get any clearer. On the ES, I'm really going to breeze through the ES because I've been talking for a while. Wow, it's almost 1 o'clock. I'm really going to breeze through the ES because I've been talking for a while. But we had a lot to talk about. And, these markets right now are incredible. Doing what we do, these markets are incredible. And there is so much money to be made. I mean, I haven't even scrolled back to the trades that I've taken, but there is so much money to be made. And, let me just say on the ES, I made 32 ticks. Okay. But, look at the slingshot. Start out with that. Okay. Was there a trade set up here? Yep. Look at the slingshot. It's going to be good separation. Was there a trade set up here? Not really. Was there a trade set up here? Yes. Was there a trade set up here? Yes. Here? Yes. Here? On this W? Yes. Flipped around, started going the other way. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Dwayne. I'm starting to babble. Okay, so anyway. Let's go back to the spreadsheet. All right. There was just so much opportunity this morning and yesterday, and in the past week. Whole all the CFTC disclosures down at the bottom. Of gold and yes. Yeah, people complain about and anyway, we were plus. I took us 16 minutes and 3 trades to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we're up $200 a contract, and we took a total of 12 trades. On the month now, we're up 58.37 over 9 days, averaging 648. And on the year, we're up $12,790 over 45 days, averaging $284 per day. But today we're up $870 a contract. Okay. And if you have not taken the free trial, go to the homepage well, it's actually not the homepage, but go to eminitrainingschool.com and scroll down to where it says name, email, phone number. Tell us your biggest trading challenge so we can tailor one-on-one training specifically for you. Hit the send button and it'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click on the confirmation link. Okay, and with that, Dwayne, you can have it back. I'm sorry, I started. There was just so much opportunity.
No, I understand. No worries.
Okay. And I must go get a new headset today.
Hey, John, your mic's open. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
Hey, John.
Very much. Yeah, look, this is as far as I'm concerned, the correction's over. We're back to normal. The huge buy in the market massively right now, and we're going up dramatically. We're going to cut probably 1,000 off the Dow, and this is the intervention I've been expecting. I was trying to get on earlier to warn everybody ahead of time.
What intervention?
Whatever's going on. Let's look at the market.
No, Trump
yeah.
Last night, Trump said, well, there's a whole bunch of things going on.
We got a green 30-minute candle headed for resistance at 25.
Doesn't matter. Forget about it. Look, I think the market's bottomed, and I think we're going way higher.
Okay.
The correction's over. We got down to the second limit, 7,400 on the Nasdaq. We're now 7,600. Almost 75.25. Let's give this a shot. I'll if we go back down again, I'll withdraw my comments just now. But I think this is the beginning of. So that's what I came to the conclusion of this morning, and we had a nice rally just from the get-go. The market came back and gave us a second chance. Just as Mike has been saying, it's loaded with opportunity today. We have to we got to get above the second limit, which is like 7,600 on the Nasdaq. Anything higher than that, it just adds to the equation. But I wouldn't underestimate. Look, this is kind of like the point of worst fear this morning. The biggest telltale is the VIX's. I saw this happen in 2000 and think it was 18, maybe 16 or 18, and maybe even 2008. The VIX out of hours this morning were way higher. I think the TVIX was 350. Let me just see where it is right now. Maybe I misread that. 420. I think it was some crazy higher number anyway. UBXY. Just a second.
Well, let me say this. Last night, Trump gave a speech, and it was like, I don't know, probably 10, 15 minutes from the Oval Office, which is a big deal. And they are banning pretty much anything from anywhere but the UK. And that includes people. And so it's, Macy's cruise is off. She's not going on a cruise next week, but she was gonna. But I mean, that's a big deal. And he's throwing money into the markets right now. Billions. Like, if I remember right, if I add all the numbers up, I think it's about 65 billion. And he's stopping taxes. He's halting taxes. A temporary tax relief is what he called it. And he said, our economy is so good that we can do this now.
Yeah, but none of that's a done deal yet.
No, it's got to go by Congress. Well, a lot of it's got to go by Congress, but not all of it. Some of it's immediate.
He has a broad range of emergency powers at his disposal.
Yeah, he does, and the country has the money. So, and it's not going to affect everybody. Okay, thank you for putting that up there, Joanne. It's not going to affect everybody. There's a certain level of income, I suppose, that it's going to hit, and and it's a big deal. It's a big deal. Okay, I'll be quiet now.
Look, this is a big deal going on today. This is one of the greatest rallies we've seen in a long, long time, and this is just the beginning. I'll tell you a little bit more about how I picked it. Maybe tomorrow or the next day, but right now I want to get to as many markets as possible. Gold, I warned about it yesterday. It could come down to about 1585. It actually came down to about 1560, low 60s. The platinum, I warned it could break down to a new low. I did have a target of 750. That's where it got to. Guess what? The silver and everything was getting slammed, and then the platinum, believe it or not, was the first to bottom at 750. I said yesterday, I want to see platinum leadership. When I see platinum leadership, I'm ready to buy the metals. The palladium, I picked the top at 2750, somewhere like that. It got down to 1600 this morning in a $115,000 crash from the highs. Right now, we've got a buy at 1600. It's at 1930. That's a 30,000 trade right there. This is, and congratulations to Mike on his picks today. Might be a record day for you, perhaps.
Yesterday was a record day, actually.
Oh, okay, sorry, yesterday.
Today I was focused on training, and yesterday I was focused on trading. And so yesterday was a record day. Yeah.
So, this is, look, I was actually going to say this morning we were sort of climbing a wall of worry when we were coming off this lows, this double bottom. This is look at how much we've gone up already. We cut 1,000 points off the Dow since I said it like 10 when I first came on. We've already cut 1,000 points. That's a pretty good day by any measure. We're going to have a bit of a pullback now. Obviously, it's going to be hard to pick this next bottom when it comes because it gets difficult. Once you get the first rally, they can bring it back. Maybe could come halfway back. It could come all the way down again. I mean, we've seen this movie before. I don't think it will, but it could. You can never rule anything out. So don't get carried away. But as long as if we're below 1,000 points down today, that's probably good enough for me. Some of the things I warned about yesterday, Royal Gold was a buy on the open. It was at 71 or 2, somewhere like that, crazy number. It's at 81 right now, $10 gain. The gold, actually, look, this gold, 1,600. We're back to 1,600. That's a $40 rebound off the low. with everything going on, the gold, I said we'll get another $100 hit. Maybe it wasn't even that much, and now the rebound is going to be epic, and we're probably going to the moon on gold from here because of all the stimulus going on around the world. So what's the Bitcoin doing right now, Dwayne?
Bitcoin's down to like $6,000.
Yeah, I think Bitcoin's over. If Bitcoin doesn't come back on this, I think this thing, all the dreams of 200,000 Bitcoin, all this kind of thing, are just like never going to happen. So I think Bitcoin's probably been put to bed permanently today. It's sort of going to go the same way as Tilray, which got down to about $6 this morning.
Well, that's sad.
Yeah.
That's sad for me. but I mean, it's well, I mean, you got to take it all. You got to take it all in stride.
Yeah.
The markets right now are giving us so much opportunity, and you just have to have, like Concierge Trade Alerts, or the Logic 24/7, or what you're talking about, individual income. Individual equities. I mean, you just got to be in the right place at the right time. And what I do in the morning? If you have enough money to put enough contracts on, like yesterday, you could make $34,000.
Look, this is the look. I said, by the grace of God, we get into intervention yesterday. I said this, nip this thing in the bud on Thursday. Obviously, well, look, it turned out to be more dramatic than we thought because of the speech last night and its impact. But I think the good news is that Trump has thrown everything out there. It basically can't get any worse. Everybody knows how bad it can get now. They've seen the movie in China. So, it potentially can only get better from this point forward. Obviously, we know that the numbers are going to get worse, but we're kind of going to get through it. And the market always, sees the bottom long before the actual happen.
Before
That's what I was trying to say yesterday. And
I've been saying that when it gets better, it's going to get way better. And
no, this thing. Listen, this is a 3-wave pull. This is the steepest 3-wave pullback in history. And as far as I'm concerned, it's over. It's over. And we're sort of back to a bull market now. Now we might have a rally, and there'll be a lot of jerking around. Just the same, but remember, the October the 20th, 1987, after the crash, which is pretty much what we've had, not quite as bad as 87, but bad enough. The rebound was epic on that Tuesday. At the moment, Thursday looks like Tuesday. I'll go with the Joe Biden.
Okay, well, we'll go with that. But what, my thought has been, it's crashing. It's crashing on basically, well, it's not just media. This is a real epidemic. But it's crashing on that. And once we get a cure for that, then we're going to get this meteoric rise that is just going to bring us up and up and up and up and up.
Hey, welcome to the show, Dr. Tom.
Hey, thanks
Dr.
very
Tom.
much. How you doing, Mike?
Talk about gold.
Yeah, well, actually, I want to talk about something else today, but I just wanted to throw something in. The main wisdom anybody can ever use in any kind of investing is never invest money that you can't afford to lose, because nothing is certain.
That's true. That is true.
And number 2 is diversify. Those are the 2 cardinal rules of investing, as far as I'm concerned.
I
agree.
I don't disagree with that at all. Yeah, right. Right now I'm dealing with diversifying, and I don't disagree with that at all.
I was talking to a client the other day. The first big drop we had, he has everything in the stock market, one way or the other,
Yep.
And I told him, I said, you need to diversify. He said, well, my broker says I am diversified. I have some in stocks, some in options, some in mutual funds, and I'm in different sectors. I said, that's not diversification. That's variety. But you're all in one asset class. And he called me up almost crying the other day, saying he lost $40,000 in one day.
Oh yeah. Well, I have a friend up north, and he's got millions of dollars in this, and he called me Sunday night, and we usually talk once or twice a year. If I fly to Boston, I always go to see him, but he's a doctor too. He's Dr. Phil. Oddly
That
enough.
Dr. Phil?
No, not that one. Not that one. But he called me and he's like, Michael, I think you're the only one I know who can make any sense of this. And we talked for 2 hours Sunday night.
Wow.
After the open, because after the open is where I knew everything was going to happen. I don't always know where things are going to happen, but I knew after the open, when we had all those gaps, what was going to happen. And I can't always, I hate saying I knew. I suspected what was going to happen and how to play it. And when you have a whole bunch of money on the line, and it's not just him, he's got 40, 45 employees, I think, and and it's all of them, and he was panicking, and he's like, what should I do? What should I do? I got all this in bonds, and I got all this in stocks, and I was like, well, I think, you're right now playing it wrong. And I said, I think, and we actually did.
When you say that you knew but you didn't know, that's a gut instinct, right?
Well, yeah, but everything that I said happened.
No, that's what I'm saying. Your gut instinct, what we think of as just, if gut instincts worked, I'd be the richest man on earth because I got the biggest gut of everybody on the show today. But what we call our gut instinct, I've come to believe, is actually our subconscious mind bringing back all the different experiences that we've had where this thing happened and then that happened and so on. And so on a subconscious level, that there's not room in our active brain for, your brain is doing all these calculations and it comes up with this gut instinct. That is what we call it, but it's really a compilation of all the experiences you had in the market.
Experience, right?
Yeah.
And I said, okay, well, we were talking. I mean, we're good friends, and we were talking for probably an hour, and then I said, okay, let me just go create a meeting. And Dwayne, if you go out and look at the GoToWebinar right now, you'll see the meeting with Dr. Bones. And then I showed him what was going to happen, what I thought was going to happen, and everything happened. The euro took forever, but everything else happened, and we've been friends for I don't know, probably 15 years, 16 years, and
since you were about 5 years old.
Yeah. Since my kids were 5 years old, but no. But,
that's funny. I have a friend named, he calls himself Dr. Bones, and he lives down here in Fort Lauderdale.
He's Dr. Bones 911 is his email address.
Wow.
And yeah. No, Phil, I mean, well, he's got 3 daughters, and they're all going through the same school that mine are up there through a Bonbon Academy. And
Michael, your audio's breaking up again.
I'm gonna go get a new headset today.
Okay.
I'm sorry about that. I apologize.
Logitech. Get Logitech.
Well, I have a Microsoft one that I've been using for, a decade. And
Wow.
I have a whole bunch of them. And every now and then they break up. So I got to go get backups. I do have a backup somewhere, but I don't know where it is right now. But anyway.
So what do you want to talk about today, Dr. Tom?
Well, I want to talk about the deep state's war on America.
Okay. You got slides?
I do.
Okay, I'll send them over to you. There you go. All yours.
All right. And let me just do this. And you should be seeing big, bright red letters.
There you go. That's better.
It's good now.
Yep.
I don't know.
Deep state war on
America. Let me do something first here real quick. Okay, now. That better?
On my screen, it blows it up too much.
I see the deep state secret war on cash. If that's the entire slide, then I do have it all
That is.
on my screen.
That is. I'm actually working on a series that I think is going to become a book. And I'm calling it The Deep State's Secret War on America. But I want to ask for everybody's help, everybody's listening today, to give me some suggestions, because this is my list of what I believe the deep state, the different types of wars they're waging against our country.
I don't want to interrupt, but define deep state.
Okay, I was just going to say, you think that everybody understands what the deep state is, or do I need to get into that? So let me get into that. For a long time, not so much before 100 years ago, but particularly the last 100, 120 years, we've had what's an administrative state. Basically, it's the fourth branch of government. And the Constitution calls for 3 branches of government. This is actually a fourth complete branch of government that has its own agenda and is really beholden to no one, because they're anonymous, nameless, faceless. They work in the shadows. That's why my background there is shadowy figures. Doesn't matter who's the president, doesn't matter what party's in power. The deep state, which used to be the administrative state until around the 60s,
These two backups,
really runs the country to a huge extent. Let me give you an example. Does anybody listening think that the senators and congressmen, when they vote on bills that are billions and sometimes trillions of dollars that deeply affect everybody in the United States, does anybody think that they read those bills?
Yeah, all the way through? All the way through? No. No, they read the part they like or don't like, and they vote on that.
Yeah. So, if I had the ability, I would propose a constitutional amendment that would say that Congress can pass no law that is longer than the Constitution. The Constitution, an amazing document that's served this country well for all these years, is very short. Why do they need 22,000 page bills? Why does the IRS code need to be taller than my house? So what happens is the senators and the congressmen, they depend on their staff to tell them what's in the bill and advise them on whether they should vote for it or not.
Right, and those are usually college students doing interns and,
Or worse, they're people that have been in government for 30 and 40 years, and they carry on from one administration to the next. So right now, we have a lot of people that were totally loyal to Obama that hate our current president, and yet they're running all the administrative matters of the government. They make decisions, like, for instance, the cruise ship that was full of people with coronavirus. The State Department, they have a medical department. I didn't even realize this. Their medical division decided to allow those passengers to land on America's soil. When Trump heard about it, he was furious because the State Department is supposed to work for him. But they just did this on their own. And he couldn't come public with it and say, well, I don't have control of my own State Department. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I do. Macy, my daughter was supposed to go on a cruise Monday, and fortunately they canceled that plan.
Wow.
But
so
I mean, it's close.
The administrative state sort of turned into a monster back in the 60s. And it was around the Vietnam War. People were very angry, a lot of people, about the Vietnam War. That's where communism and socialism started really taking hold in this country, because it's not by accident that I have all the titles on this in red, because the deep state is the social state. In a sense, they're not beholden to either party. They've got their own agenda. They're globalist.
I don't know. Are you sure Obama didn't have a part in this?
Oh, look, he's very much a part of it, because he has that same globalist agenda. But I'm saying in general, it's not that the deep state cares about either party. They care about their agenda. Whichever parties fall in their agenda, which generally is the Democratic Party, they're going to support, and they're going to undermine the other party. Look how a lot of people are going to get mad at me about this. And by the way, if you hear the sound, a big crashing sound, and all of a sudden the line goes dead here, that's one of the government SWAT teams crashing into my house and cutting me off. Because even our intelligence committee, which we have always depended on as being nonpartisan, we saw what happened in the lead up to the election of 2016. The FBI, not so much the CIA, but they were involved as well. But the FBI was definitely working for the Democratic Party. They undermined Trump, and they tried to get Hillary Clinton elected. And the more it comes out, practically every week, the more obvious it is that the intelligence community, which we used to just revere in this country, we used to be able to say, wow, we have the trusted, greatest intelligence community in the world. They're not anymore. I think they're ranking.
I have a cousin who's in the CIA, and Billy's, he's got a master's from, where is it, Clemson, I think. I wouldn't trust him, not with a penny.
No.
And I'll say this. This is just a little recap of my life. My dad gave me the authority to beat him up whenever I wanted to when I was a kid.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a little crazy.
A little bit crazy, but that's my dad.
Yeah. Oh well. So
sorry, didn't mean to.
No. Hey, look, I love conversations. You can tell. if everybody would just look at this screen, you know, today I'm going to talk about the war on cash, but in the coming weeks and months, I want to talk about privacy, the war on life at both ends. You know, killing babies, even babies that were born alive, and then killing them after they're born. They call it post-birth abortion. How can it be an abortion?
What they've approved in New York right now, I mean, that's just awful. You know, you can go 6 months and still have an abortion. You can go up to 6 weeks before birth, I think, is what they said, and still have an abortion. And I think that's just crazy.
But even worse than that, a baby can be seconds away from being born. The head can actually be out, and the doctor can abort the baby. He can take his scissors and stick it down and sever his spinal cord and kill that baby, because until all its arms and feet and everything are out of the vagina, it's not considered born. So the head can be out and they can murder it. But now the latest thing is, if they try to abort a baby and it's born alive, they can either just starve it to death, they can smother it, they could kill a baby that was born alive, and they call it post-birth abortion. There's only one word for post-birth abortion. It's murder. You know, it's insane. But then on the other end, older people, people that certain folks don't feel like really can contribute to society anymore, well, you know, why keep them alive? So in the new medical regimes that you're going to see rationing. It's already started in some cases. Like if you're a certain age, you can't get a transplanted organ, and so on.
Well, you know, going down that road, I mean, this is just a little side road on that road. You know, if you're in prison and you have a life sentence, why are you in prison?
Yeah. I would just watch
it. It's the same theory. It's just played out differently because of politics.
Yeah. So there's this war on life. There's a war on the family. The tax system has been mainly used for that. It used to be that a family could survive very well in this country on one income. And it's a direct result of the huge increases in taxes that have forced most families to have two wage earners, whether they want to or not. The war on free speech, the war on freedom in general, the war on patriotism. Patriotism is looked down on, spat on, despised. The war on our military.
You know, I gotta say, down here in the South, you know, up north, you know, where it's mostly Democratic, it is. But down here in the South, where I live now, you know, on Veterans Day, it's a big deal, and we get free meals.
Yeah. Well, it's sad the way they've been able to accomplish, but I mean, it's happening. The war on our sovereignty. When we allow people to come across our border unchecked, unvetted, we don't know who they are, we're losing our sovereignty. We're losing our sovereignty in another way, and that is we're giving up more and more power to the UN and other, quote, international organizations. The war on children. There's a horrible, horrible resolution that's been passed by the United Nations that gives the state power over our children, takes power away from parents and gives it to the state. And Clinton signed it, but it's not gotten past the Senate because the Senate has to pass it because it's a treaty. So fortunately, it hasn't been passed. The war on education. That's on two fronts. You know, they're not teaching children valuable skills. They're teaching to be drones, servants of the state. A good friend of mine, he's working his doctoral thesis, and that's what he called it, useful drones. But they're also at war against homeschooling, which to me is the most effective form of schooling in the country. There's a war on self-determination, on us being able to decide what kind of car we want to drive, what kind of house we want to build, where we want to build our house. And it's just so many different things where we're not allowed to decide anymore.
Well, going back to the war on education and the self-schooling, I don't know many people that self-school their kids. Jake goes to St. Stephen's, Macy goes to University Christian. My daughter goes to Fontbonne Academy. Alexis goes to Fontbonne Academy. But I do have friends that do self-school their kids, and they have 4 of them. And their kids are really smart. They're really athletic, and they're really engaging. And, I've met so many kids that aren't self-schooled. I'm just, supporting your position here. But I met so many kids that aren't self-schooled that, they're not engaging. They can't carry on a conversation. They're smart enough. I know they're smart enough, but they just don't. And, when I see the way kids are growing up, that just bugs me. You know what? I know the way my kids are growing up, and, well, they're both really popular. These two down here are really popular. Alexi is too, but on a different level.
Right.
And
I can give you a little insight into homeschooling because we've homeschooled our daughter. She's 22 now. And I had an experience one time where we went to the state fair, and there was just a bunch of young punks around, and this kid bumped into me, and instead of apologizing, he says, F you, old man, stay out of the way, and his shirt read F you spelled out. And I really felt like putting the kid on the ground because there's all these little children around. He's wearing this T-shirt.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
that's what they're getting.
I'm at a homeschool convention. It's the largest homeschool convention in the country. Over 10, 12,000 people there. Mm-hmm. And a young teenage kid bumped into me. And I was about to say, excuse me, because I was sort of in his way. Or I bumped into him, I'm sorry. And it was kind of crowded. There's a lot of people there. And he says, oh, excuse me, sir, I'm sorry. I mean, just the difference was amazing.
Total
homeschool
opposite.
Kids tend to be very polite, respectful. The last church I pastored, we had a family over for dinner after church. And they had, I think, 8 kids. So the younger ones were in my daughter's bedroom playing with her, but the older ones, like from 13 up to 17, they stayed in the living room, and we were having some deep conversations about history, about economics, about theology, about
I'm telling you,
politics.
I only know one person who has the kids, and there's Josiah, Jeremiah, and Micah is the other one's name. Those are the kids' names, all boys, and they're aggressive playing sports. Josiah is he's like the boss, and he's the loudest mouth, and he's the biggest kid. But their mother is a paraplegic. I help her get in her wheelchair and stuff like that when the games come, and bring her back, if Joe can't be there. And
tend to be pretty amazing, don't they?
Yeah, that's Jake's best friend.
Well, as I was saying, we had their older kids in the living room with us while we're having some pretty deep conversations on politics and religion and theology and so on. And here's kids 13, 15, and 17 not only engaging in the conversation, not hiding in their phones, and playing games, but they were in part of the conversation with the two pairs of parents, and they were holding their own and had intelligent things to contribute to the conversation. I met one professor of graduate studies, and he says his best students are homeschool students because they learn to study on their own. They're not spoon-fed everything. Anyway, that's just one of the ways that the deep state is conducting war against. They don't want an educated populace. Self-determination. Go ahead.
You know, when you think about it, I know what I do every day, and I do the same thing every day. The same thing every day. I really do. And I do pretty well at it. But when it comes to teaching, usually the teachers have they have an agenda that they just take from year to year to year to year, and they never adjust it. So the kids don't get adjusted. I know, I went to prep school, and, the teachers, like Jake, tomorrow, for instance, they have teacher education day tomorrow and another teacher education day on Monday. And so he's not going to have school on either day. And so the teachers are supposed to be learning new stuff. And do you think they're taking notes and changing their teaching plan? Do you think?
Probably not.
Yeah. No, they're not. They're not. And, from my experience with my friend Joe and his homeschooling stuff, they're families that, they meet and they discuss what is current, and they base the education plan on that. And, I don't think that's what happens in schools.
Now, there are some great teachers out there, but the teachers union, which really controls education in this country, they control the textbooks. I mean, there are textbooks out there that are so blatantly full of lies that it's unbelievable. For instance, just one quick example. Most of the middle school kids in this country study U.S. history out of a textbook that, when it talks about World War II, doesn't mention Pearl Harbor. How can you talk about World War II without mentioning the reason we got into it? Because half of America was opposed to the war. They called it the Europeans' War. They didn't want anything to do with it. If the Japanese had not attacked us, we wouldn't have gotten into World War II, and England would have been taken over by the Germans.
How about the Germans? France too.
France as well, yeah. And Italy was already on their side, and we would have a totally different world. But then on the other end, when they talk about the way the war ended, it's all this America's big and mean and bad and imperialistic, trying to take over the world, and they dropped 2 atomic bombs. They don't talk about the fact that those atomic bombs, while they killed a lot of people, they saved millions and millions of lives because it stopped the war, and many more millions of Japanese would have died.
Yeah, Japanese, Germans.
Not just Allied people, but the people that we bombed. It saved, and a lot of Japanese people today admit that we saved Japan, and then afterwards,
we really did.
We rebuilt Japan. There's nothing about that in the books that the kids are reading.
No, and I can tell you another personal story. I'm just going on personal stuff. My grandfather was a Jedburgh, and there was a team, British guy, a French guy, and an American guy, and they would parachute in behind enemy lines. I mean, like Rambo, and blow up bridges and train and arm the resistance. And and he did that. Well, he had, I don't know how long he was in. I don't remember how long he was in. He wasn't in very long, but he was in, during World War II. And I mean, you look up Jedburgh. He was in Team Norman. And I think there were 163 guys or something like that they had for that. And he would parachute in behind enemy lines.
Wow.
And
that took a lot of
just do that
courage.
stuff.
Yeah. But see, that was back when we had patriots that ran the country. I mean, it used to be unheard of that you would have someone elected president, commander in chief, who had never served in the military. How do you send young men and women into harm's way if you don't know what war's about yourself? And now it's been a long time since we've had anyone who really understands. Well, I want to get off this slide here because
Okay,
the other
I'm
two
sorry.
things.
I've been going on, and I actually have to go pick up my kids. I'm not Jake, but I have to get Lex. I mean,
Well, give them a big hug. Okay.
I won't.
But we have the deep state that's at war on Christianity. There's no question about it. I mean, they push the Islam agenda, but they are at war with Christianity. It's insane because this nation was founded as a Christian nation. And then, of course, there's the war on self-defense, taking away our right to defend ourselves. I don't think anybody thinks that everybody should have to have a gun. Israel does, by the way. Everybody, men and women, have to serve, I think, 2 years in the military over there. And then when they get out of the military, they're sent home with their rifle. And every home in Israel has a rifle in it because they're subject to invasion at any time. Nobody's trying to say in America that you have to have a gun, but nobody else should be able to take away my right to have a gun and defend my family. That's just nuts. So what I'd like to ask the listeners, if you would help me out a little, is just type in to your subject line any other areas that you think that the deep state is at war with the nation on. I thought of one as we were going through this, and that's the police. I'm going to add that to the list. But does anyone else have any thoughts on this? Any other areas that I should research and include in the series?
In the war on self-defense, I just typed in a message to you in the other chat box, by the way. In the war on self-defense, yeah, spiritual war. Well, that's kind of the war on Christianity, right?
Right.
Housing, zoning regulations. Well, that's government. So.
Oh yeah, yeah. Basically, property rights.
Right.
Because the government can take your property anytime it wants to. That's a good one. Thank you.
And Bob said, he's from Canada, but he said data acquisition, meaning they can come and, like jump in your computer and take your data. Is that what you think, Bob? I just want to make sure.
Yeah, like these.
Well,
basically.
So yeah, they are. I mean, they can. They can just log right onto your accounts like you do, and if you're using a computer to do anything, then they know. And even if you're not, they know. If you use a debit card, I used to do everything in cash. But now
Really?
I don't want to. Now I don't want to touch money because of the coronavirus.
You have to wear plastic gloves, right? But
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I really did. I did everything in cash, and I'd have. I'm not going to say that, but I would have plenty of it, and and because I just didn't like how easy it was for people to hack into my stuff and take my stuff. And there was one time, Dwayne and I think it was 19, no, it was 2011, I think. Somebody hacked my ID and they opened a bank account in my name in Boston, and they tried to withdraw a whole bunch of money from our account. And fortunately it was too much and they got stopped. But I mean, it's a real thing. It's a real thing. And that's why I just went to cash as much as I could.
and the government's not really protecting us from that. They
no,
could.
No, it wasn't the government that protected. It was the actual company.
Right.
That they were trying to get it from, the bank that they're trying to get it from. It wasn't the government.
The government could protect us from that type of thing. He could do
Yeah.
a much, much better job, but it's
Yeah.
spending more of his time spying on us than it is protecting us. I mean, everywhere you look, there's these traffic cams. They're not for traffic. They're for tracking our movements. They track our license plates. They know where you go. I mean, there is no privacy. There's no freedom of movement without being on somebody's list. I don't have anything, I don't care if they know where I go because whatever I do is legal. But I mean, just the idea that they can track me on my telephone, track my license plate when I go through a toll area, take pictures of my car as I go through. I mean, they know every place I've been. So does anybody? Yeah, and get your bank. Yeah. Does anybody else have any ideas that I should include on this list besides those? I appreciate those, by the way.
Yeah, that's what John had said yesterday, Tim. If you microwave your cash, it'll kill the virus. And yeah, and Bob Z says, we give it freely on Facebook. Why do they need it in such detail? I mean, beyond the marketing aspects, the health insurance companies would want you to profile your eliminate risk due to cancer, etc. for one, or NSA for political earnings. It's far more deviant than people realize. I don't. Every now and then, I'll have a good picture of me and Jada or me and the kids, and I'll post that on Facebook. They don't need any more information than that.
Yeah, for years we didn't allow our daughter to post a picture of herself when she was young on the internet because of all the child predators. We had a fire marshal down here that was actually pretending to be a 13-year-old girl and arranging to meet young girls at the mall and then doing stuff. By the way, putting your cash in the microwave, do not do that with the new $100 bills. They have a lot of metal in them, and you will start a fire in your microwave. Your other cash, that's fine, but not with the new $100 bills, what they call the biometric ones. We're going to talk about that today. But also, in addition to other items that I can include on the list, if you know about some things, like some of the things that Michael and I have been talking about, that I can include when I do talk about these, either personal experiences or articles you've seen or websites you've noticed, please write to me. You can write to, the easiest one is just webinars, WEBINARS, webinars at Comcast. in family courts. It's becoming a real big problem because the feminists have more or less taken over the family court system. So if you have any thoughts or ideas or research or anything that would help me, I really believe that this series, I am going to put it into book form. And if you help me out, I'll send you a free book. How's that? Make sure that you, when you send the email, send me your telephone number and your name. And when I publish the book, I'll call you up and I will get your address and send you a free book. Sound like a good deal? All right. I want to move on, but feel free to pop anything else in the subject area there that you think would help with this. But I want to, my whole plan today was to talk about the war on cash. So let me get down to that. I mentioned about the new $100 bills. The various different methods that the government is employing to bring us to what I call a cashless society. One of the main ways they're doing this is they're replacing our cash with biometric bills. I've got a whole webinar on ChristianFinancialConcepts.com about this, talking about the 9 different biometric features that are now in your $100 bills. So when you go to CFRNgold.com and get the information about gold and how you can protect your family using gold, you'll also get an invitation to the webinars. And in that email will be the address, ChristianFinancialConcepts.com. And go there and dig into this. You really need to understand the biometric bills. They've got the $100 bills out now, and as you deposit cash in the bank, if you've got the old $100 bills, they pull them out of circulation and they replace them with more deposit vault with a scanner, and just go around and run up and down the rows. And if you've got a certain number of $100 bills in your say deposit box, then they know it. Okay. And under the very unpatriotic Patriot Act, one of the things the government gave itself permission to do to again violate your privacy and your rights is to open your safe deposit box without your permission or knowledge. And if your banker tells you that they've been in your safe deposit box, he can be arrested for what is on safe deposit of his account. I see it's becoming more. It could take months to get it back. To make no, I'm sure they put it in safe deposit box. But if they see that, they're going to assume it's dirty money. Why would you put it in a safe deposit? Why don't the audience have problems hearing?
Hey, Dr. Tom, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Your audio is breaking up real bad.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Oh, okay. All right. Guys, he's going to switch to a different phone.
Backups of everything. To a, as I can find.
If you could just dial in on your phone. I mean, if you want, obviously you know what you can do or not do, but you could still keep the screens, but just do the audio part over the phone.
Okay, let me do that. That'd be quicker. I think my battery's just dying up.
Okay.
So stand by.
All right. You'll be right back. Gotcha. All right, guys. Let me see. I know you can't see my charts, but I can see my charts, and I'll show you my charts after Dr. Tom's finished. I just don't want to complicate things any more than necessary here. So let me just tell you where we're at on the S&P. We did pull back to the BBC on the 30-minute, where it held, as it does more often than not. There's a huge wick sticking up above the BBC. It even sticks up above the lowest weekly trading zone at 2623/24. That candle closed with a red body below the BBC. If you'll recall, right before Dr. Tom took the charts, I had put a little circle on the S&P where we would expect price to run into resistance, and it did. Okay, price always reverts to the mean, and in our case, the mean is the BBC. It just stands for bull bear cross. Try to make it as simple as possible. If price is above that line, we anticipate higher prices. If price is below that line, we anticipate lower prices. So when we move above, we become bullish. We move below, we become bearish for whatever time frame we're observing. Okay, you could look at a 30-minute chart and have bullish conditions. Prices above the BBC. Look at a 5-minute, prices below. And that's what I've been really working towards making sure everyone understands here over the last few nights in the Telegram channel. If you're on the trial, make sure you have. Oh, and if you're already a passport holder, make sure that you have access to the alert trial discussion group, because a lot of the stuff I shared in there, because most people, just the natural transition was you started out in the trial discussion group, then you gained access to the private group. But I guess not everybody was in the trial discussion group, because a couple of requests came in over the last few days for people who are passport holders who wanted to, hey, can I see what the trial people are seeing? So we took care of that. But if you are a passport holder and don't have access, get a hold of Valerie. She'll give you the link, and we'll get you in there. Because the last couple of days, we've really been, last couple of evenings, really focused on looking at the smaller time frame, going from our 30-minute to get the lay of the land. Should I expect higher prices or lower prices? Last night, we stalked a really good trade. It didn't mature, but all the things that we thought it could happen actually did happen. We had an area of resistance at, let's see if I can find that chart. Oh, it's in the Telegram channel. So let me scroll up and take a look at that. Hey, Dr. Tom. Now, I wonder if he comes in with a hot mic. I don't know. Well, he's got my phone number, so if he has troubles getting in, I could just call him and put him on speaker, I guess. That'd be a worst case scenario. Alright, anyway. Alright, so I'm in the discussion group, and I'm scrolling up to these charts. Okay, so we identified in the room last night, live in real time, potential resistance on the S&P at 2668. And price pulled up to, well, I'm almost embarrassed to say, but it pulled up to, no, I'm not embarrassed to say. Let me just go over to this chart. What was that pullback high? 2668. The swing high was actually 26.69. Now magic, not a secret that I found in a cave in an urn in the Gobi Desert. Clay urn. It's just reading a chart, taking advantage of the information that you have in front of you to make a decision that results in the higher probability of one thing happening over another thing. When we enter a trade, we know one of two things is going to happen. We're either going to hit our target or we're going to hit our stop. Guaranteed. The world doesn't come to an end. I guess that's not even funny at this point in time, so my apologies. But you understand what I'm saying. Once you enter a trade, one of two things is about to happen. Now, depending upon what time frame you trade in, it may be the next few minutes, could be the next few hours, could be the next few days. Hey, Dr. Tom.
Hey, can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Yeah, you sound good. So, guys, as soon as we finish talking to Dr. Tom, I will bring up the chart I was just talking about, and we'll walk through it a little bit. Okay, Dr. Tom, welcome back to the show. We can still see your methods employed slide.
Okay. Are you hearing me well now?
Yes, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, doke.
Okay. What happened is our whole internet went down.
Oh.
So that's why my wireless headset wasn't working. And since our phone system is internet based, when I tried to dial on that, I couldn't get through. So I seriously apologize.
Okay.
All right.
You know, that's one of the, I was reading a list this morning of the powers that the president has in times of emergency. In fact, it's called the presidential emergency powers. It's pretty broad. One of the things is the internet. There's a kill switch somewhere. So at his pleasure, the president could shut down the internet.
Yeah, and imagine how that would change our lives.
Well, which you know, I could see them doing if we were under some type of cyber attack. I mean, you know, just kill the internet, and it makes the cyber attack a little more difficult.
Well, back to cash.
Okay.
I'm just going to abbreviate this because what I want to talk about is the war on cash. There's so much more we can talk about on this, but let's just at least give an introduction to it. These biometric bills, were you able to hear what I said about them going into safe deposit boxes and scanning to see if you have cash in your safe deposit box?
I didn't hear that. I had stepped away for a moment.
Okay.
At my bank,
Well,
they take you in a little room. It's like a little private room. At least that's how it used to be. I honestly haven't been there in years.
Well, they still do that, but what they can do now with these biometric bills, supposedly the biometric bills are for the purpose of keeping down cash transactions of drugs and terrorists and things like that. That's not really the reason. I mean, the terrorists have plenty of ways. If they can move bombs and stuff into our country, they can certainly move cash in the air if they need.
And they can open a PayPal account.
Yeah.
I mean,
so what they're really doing is trying to use the Patriot Act to clamp down on honest American citizens.
Mm-hmm.
So a federal agent can write his own warrant without going to a judge and can go in and have your safe deposit box opened. And if the banker tells you, informs you that your box is open, he could be jailed for a violation of the Patriot Act. Well, what are they looking for? They're looking for contraband. What do people keep in their safe deposit boxes? They keep
guns in many cases. That's contraband. They'll confiscate it. They won't say they're keeping it. They're taking it for evidence, right? But you'll never see it again. If you have cash in there, they'll take that, because you must be a crook if you're putting cash in your safe deposit box and not putting it in savings account and making 0.5%. Now, a lot of people realize that there's more risk in having your money in a savings account where the bank can go out of business, and if the FDIC pays out, and there's more and more questions about whether that will even be possible when things get really bad. But if they do, it can take 6 months to get your money back. So my money is actually safer in the safe deposit box, but they'll confiscate that as evidence that I might be a possible criminal, and I will never see it. It will be kept in the evidence box. And finally, precious metals. A lot of people keep precious metals in safe deposit box. Well, it's not very safe. And I just got a notice that I've been disconnected from the webinar. So you're probably not seeing my screen anymore.
Well, I'm seeing the cached version in my browser, but I'll go ahead and just grab the screens back. But go ahead, keep.
Well, if that's still showing.
Yeah, it is. It is. The methods employed, we can see all the way down to, at the bottom of the screen, is consolidation banks and insurance companies.
Okay. Well, let's keep it that way then, because that's my last line on the slide.
All right.
So they're also reducing the amount of cash in circulation. They're gradually pulling cash out. Now, they're automatically doing that with $100 bills. If you've got old $100 bills, that's something you want to keep a hold of. Don't go down to the bank and change them to pretty new ones, because they're the ones that they can track wherever you take that money. But if you deposit your old $100 bills, they take them out of circulation and burn them, and they replace them with these biometric bills. The government is strongly encouraging the use of electronic media instead of cash. And there's a number of ways they can do that and have been doing that. Like, for instance, anybody that gets a Social Security check or a disability check or a pension check, do you get a check anymore, or is it direct deposited?
Right.
People on Social Security, even if they want to get a check, they can't. They say, well, there's a risk that somebody might steal from their mailbox. Right. They want to direct deposit it. They don't want you to have the actual check and go down and get cash for it.
Say that last part again.
If the fact that cash was such a problem that it encouraged criminals,
right,
then why has the government been more aggressive in regulating the internet? You know they could do it. But we have companies that do business on the internet all the time that don't pay tax. Pay tax. They could just change the laws. They don't do it because they want you using your plastic and electronics on the internet. They don't want you buying things with cash. What about cryptocurrencies? Okay, that's the way a lot of money gets surreptitiously.
Yeah, we just lost your audio. Dr. Tom, we lost your audio. Okay, all right, let me grab back these screens. And we'll get through this program. That's the general idea. Oh, I lost my chart. Here it is. Okay, all right. So this is the S&P, and this is that 2668 number. Now let me show you what this discussion group looks like, so you can know whether you're a passport holder or on the trial. Make sure you're in the one that says alert trial discussion group. This is the chart right here that I had mentioned back up somewhere earlier. As the market was starting to recover, here it is on, I guess this is on the 30-minute version, or is that the 5? Trying to see where the idea germinated. Okay, so as the market started its bounce last night, we had a higher low, higher high. Now, I said, you know, I guess I better scroll up a tad. I don't want to mire you down, and because you can go there and just read it yourself. But this is logic. 247 last night was to be short 27.50. Concierge Trade Alert was to be short 27.26. We definitely got a retest right there of the 27.26. Of course, there were no exit signals on the way down. And right here, this is the lowest weekly trading zone. Now that's since given away, but interestingly enough, look what it's done. See, this is where we initially came down and consolidated at the lowest weekly trading zone. Okay, right there. This is 30-minute chart, so 1, 2, 2.5 hours. It was as we were consolidating here that I put into the Telegram channel this area to expect for potential resistance, and it turned out, you know, what do they say? Even a blind squirrel finds an acorn every now and then. So there's my acorn. Price then comes back down to the zone where it again consolidates for 1, 2, 2.5 hours. Then price closes below the weekly trading zone. And by the way, and I'll cover this a little bit later, in this area right here, we were actually looking for a counter trend opportunity. It never matured. It never fully developed. In other words, when it pulled on the 5-minute, when it pulled back to the BBC, it didn't bounce. So we were waiting for that counter trend opportunity, and when it became obvious that wasn't going to happen, I said, okay, now we revert to plan A, which is always to trade in the direction of the trend, as we define it on a 30-minute chart. If price is below the BBC, we're looking to go lower. The price is above this green line, expecting to go higher. Bull bear cross. No mystery, no nothing. That's just as simple as we know how to make it. Okay? So, as price comes down and consolidates for the second time, certainly putting in some people's minds, some traders, that, hey, maybe we got a double bottom here. I mean, it would certainly qualify as that. So, but we weren't prepared to make any judgment as long as we're consolidating at the zone. Only 3 things can happen at a weekly trading zone. When price approaches the zone, the main thing to expect is consolidation, which is this. Second most likely thing is rejection, which is that right there. The third and least likely, but it happens, is called the slice. And that's when price slices through a zone like it isn't even there. Now, this one, okay, this 30-minute candle does slice through the zone, but, you know, just a few hours back, it spent a lot of time consolidating there. Now, what did it do? It consolidated, it pulled back to the BBC, and, well, but that was the other day. We've already covered that. All right. So price gets below the weekly trading zone. You know, this whole way down, we're below the BBC. So we're only looking for shorting opportunities, with the exception of if you understand it's a counter trend trade, and you understand the parameter and the risk and all of that. Counter trend trades are completely legitimate trades. They just don't have the same high probability nature as a trend trade. That's why on both the Concierge and the Logic Alerts, everything I officially publish in the alert channel is always going to be with the trend, with There may have been a few rare exceptions over the last 84 weeks, but each time there is an exception, I always point it out. This is counter trend, or this came from a 5-minute, and it's just very, very rare. Because if you are new to trading and you haven't already picked up bad habits, then we just simply want you to learn good habits. What if whoever taught you how to trade said, you're only, oh yeah, let's do it up real good. You don't know anything about trading, but this company says they'll hire you as a trader. And in their manual, in their employee manual, it says, okay, you're only allowed to take this setup. Maybe they give you a test and say, okay, you're licensed. You now have a license to trade this one setup. Oh, but you better not trade anything else because you'd be in big trouble. You don't know anything about trading. Sounds good to me, boss. Where do I sit? And so you go to your desk, and the only trades you ever take are the ones that you're quote unquote licensed to trade. Right? Hey, I got a license to do this. Look at that. It pulls back to the BBC, and then it drops. And then is that you, Dr. Tom?
It is.
Hey, well, welcome back again.
Thank you. Seems like the devil's trying to...
Yeah, he's all up in our business today. So, did we lose you again? Dr. Tom? Oh my goodness. We did. Okay. All right. Well, we'll be here, so I don't know if you can hear me. Oh, there you are. Okay, there you are. You're back again.
Everything. My internet, my telephone. I hear you, yeah.
Okay. Listen, why don't...
Can you hear me all right?
What? No, you're chopping in and out. Why don't we pick this up tomorrow or next Thursday, whichever's better for you.
All right, we can do that.
Okay, because your audio, we kind of hear every other sentence. It's kind of a thing. Or if you want to try calling in one more time, I mean, we're going to be here for a bit, so you're welcome to call back in.
Okay. All right, we'll do.
Okay. All right, guys, so your license is only good to trade just the one setup. Pull back to the BBC. It holds. And so as the market begins to go lower or higher, depending upon where you are in relation to the BBC, if you're below it, you're only going to be taking short trades. If you're above it, you're only going to be taking long trades. So here's all these examples of it holds more often than it doesn't, right? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? Well, what does it look like when it doesn't hold? It looks exactly like this. It looks exactly like that. As we can see over here, we got our bullish cross. We pulled away, we pulled back. This is the only trade that you're licensed to trade. So you take it, you go home, you say, I think I like this trading business. But then, here, you've got red falling overhead. Okay, this pullback here, you've got red, but it hasn't gotten serious yet, right? Did a little U shape. Over here, see how this is what I call red and falling. Now, price can trade through red and falling, but we always have to consider it as an obstacle until proven otherwise. Just as we look at blue and climbing as support until proven otherwise.
So tell me you can hear me well now.
Yes, sir, I do hear you well.
Well, thank the good Lord.
That was very frustrating.
Yeah, boy, you got whammied with everything, huh?
Yeah, just all at once. Anyway, where did we end up? Where was the last you heard me?
You know,
Being able to say clearly.
I'll be honest, I don't recall exactly, and I finally had to take the charts back because I didn't know if you were going to be able to come back. So,
Well, that's fine. I don't need the charge for this, but I was just wondering, does anybody
anybody remember the exact last thing that Dr. Tom shared with us? Let me see, where's my chat box? I know I have one. Oh, here it is. Let's see. The last thing Tim had said was, I use a private safety deposit box. I suppose you have the same restrictions as banks. So that's the last comment in the chat box. So, anybody else?
Okay, well, that's good.
Okay.
Yeah, I know I'd started talking about the ways that they're using to limit our access to cash, right?
Yeah, and you were talking about cash being used for terrorist activities and drugs and etc.
Okay, well, I'm glad. What was the person's name again? Just made that comment.
Tim. That was Tim.
Tim. Tim, I'm glad you're using a private safe deposit box. I strongly encourage that. As a matter of fact, I have a friend who owns storage facilities all over the United States, and I encouraged him to start installing private deposit boxes in them, and he's doing a gangbuster business. It costs about twice as much for the same size deposit box, but there is no government involvement. The government has no ability to know who owns them. You can walk into one of these places and tell them your name is Mickey Mouse, and they'll open an account for you. You don't have to give them your social security number. As long as you have the password and the key to the box, or in some cases they don't use keys anymore, they're using, iris or fingerprint or whatever.
They don't.
But as long as
they don't require any type of identification.
No identification whatsoever. But you better not forget the number of your box and the code.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Right.
But it's because they're not part of the government system. They're not banks. Banks, if they have safe deposit boxes, have to get all that information from you. But here's an interesting thing that's been happening. As time goes on, if you notice if you open an account with a new bank or whatever, very often they don't have safe deposit boxes. Okay, they're getting rid of them. Because under the Patriot Act, the government can come in and look in your box anytime it wants to and take whatever it wants to, including cash, gold, and weapons. They consider that contraband. And it's illegal for them to do that under this unpatriotic Patriot Act. So the banks don't want the liability of having customers coming to them and suing them for allowing their stuff to be taken out of their boxes. So one bank where I do business, they pulled out all the safe deposit boxes and turned that room into a conference room. Another bank closed down one branch, and they said, well, we have to close your box down because we're closed this branch, but we'll give you a box in another branch once one becomes available, because out of 9 branches they have in this county, only one has safe deposit boxes. So that's another way they're keeping people from having cash. So go the private vault method if you can do that, or on ChristianFinancialConsultants.com, we have an hour video on hiding your valuables, innovative ways that you can use to keep your valuable things on your own property where no one would ever find them. The government's encouraging the use of any kind of media other than cash. Like if you want to get your
your retirement check or your Social Security check, forget about it. They'll only direct deposit in most cases. They're allowing plastic to be used where you never used to be able to use it before. Remember when you went to the grocery store, you either paid cash or you used a check, and they would have you fill out a form and they would check you out. If you're okay, then you could use checks to buy groceries. But no one would accept credit cards. Now, they're begging you to use credit cards.
Right, yeah.
I mean, I was at the airport and I didn't have any cash with me except $100 bills. I bought a candy bar for $1.50 using a credit card. Used to be you had a minimum of $25 to use a credit card. Mm-hmm. So if cash is such a problem, then, you know, why isn't the government more aggressive, for instance, in regulating cryptocurrencies? They could do that, but they're not.
Right.
Because with cryptocurrencies, it's still got an electronic trail. It leaves those electronic breadcrumbs. And people can say all they want to about it's totally anonymous and nobody can get into it. But I have a friend that actually is a consultant to the Pentagon on these matters, on financial terrorism and so on. Mm-hmm. And he says the NSA can get into anything, period, including blockchain. So I don't know that for a fact, but I do know that the government is cracking down on cash, and they're not cracking down on cryptocurrencies, which at least is an indication that they have a way of knowing what you're doing in cryptocurrencies.
Right.
The internet, you can buy practically anything you want on the internet, and
Hitman,
you know the government wants
heroin, you name it. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and you know the government wants taxes, but why are they not taxing everything that happens on the internet? It's because they want to get you away from cash and get you using plastic. Eventually, they will tax everything that happens on the internet. Right now, unless the store that you're buying from has a physical location in the state where you reside, they don't charge taxes. And then the final thing is they're forcing banks, insurance companies, and investment banks to consolidate. Do you remember the TARPs and the bailouts and all that?
Right.
They decided which investment banks were going to survive and which weren't. And they made the bigger companies buy out some of the smaller ones. Same thing's happening with insurance companies as they get in trouble. I know a guy who's on the board of directors of a community bank, and they came to him and said, we're going to loan you so many $1 million. And he and his board said, well, we don't need it. We're strong. Well, our stress test says that you have to take this money. And if you don't, we're going to shut you down. And they could shut him down just for the word. So they had to take the money, which put them under, this is a community bank, it wasn't a federal bank. It put them under the federal bank's thumb. So my prediction is that within the next couple of years, there will be 3 big banks. There may be still the different names, Wells Fargo and Bank of America and so on, but they're all going to be owned by one of these 3 major banks. Same thing with 3 major insurance companies and 3 major banks that do investment banking. And also IRAs, the IRA companies that oversee your IRA. They're called custodians.
Custodians.
So you may think...
Yeah, I'm familiar with that term.
Yeah, a lot of people think that Merrill Lynch is holding their IRA. Well, they're managing it, but they have to be under one of about a dozen custodians, and they'll get that down to 3. So eventually, it'll be so easy for the government to take over 3 banks than hundreds of banks, right?
Right.
And then they will control every single financial transaction, or at least know about every financial transaction. So my message is, if you want to have any degree of privacy left in your life, the only private transaction you can do is with investment grade gold. Even bullion doesn't cut it, because a bullion dealer, if you buy $10,000 in bullion or more, they have to report it to the federal government. And you can't say, well, I'll buy $9,900 today and $9,900 tomorrow. No, they aggregate that, just like the banks do. If you deposit $90,000 in cash one day and $9,000 in cash in a totally different branch the next day, they aggregate it. And if you do over $10,000 in a month, it's suspicious activity. So they'll be able to do that with bullion, but they can't do it with investment grade coins. That's the one area, that's one financial transaction you can still do and still have privacy. And the day that they say that dealers like myself that deal in investment grade coins, that we have to report it, is the day that I will shut down my business. Because the main reason people do this is for privacy,
Right.
not for hiding from the government, not for trying to avoid taxes, but because they want some privacy in their lives. They don't want the government looking at every single thing they do. So, if anybody has any questions, Dwayne can give you my telephone number. Feel free to call me direct, or go to CFRNgold.com and request the Gold Education Starter Package. You get access to 500 hours worth of financial education. It's available at ChristianFinancialConcepts.com, and you get invitations to our Monday night webinars, where we would love to have you join us. Does anybody have any questions?
That sounds fantastic. I don't have any questions in the chat box. I think you covered it well. Hope you get your internet issues straightened out.
Yeah, it apparently is just a temporary thing, but let me reiterate what I said at the beginning. If you've got anything else that you'd like to add to my list of things where the deep state, the administrative state, is attacking American freedom and values, please contact me, and I'll add it to my list. And as I said, anybody who gives me a good idea to add to it, I'll give you a free book once it's finished. And also, if you have any articles or information or internet links that you could send me that would help me explain these different items on my list, I would appreciate that. We can make this a community project that will help thousands, maybe millions of people.
Yeah, that sounds good. All right, I'll put a little something out on the blog so that I encourage people to share their thoughts with you.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Hey, thank you, Dr. Tom.
God bless.
All right, brother. Talk to you soon. Okay, we're on the Dow now. Last night's Concierge Trade Alert, 23,245. Now, if you did not grab a screenshot, if you want to grab a screenshot, let's figure out how to mute that. Oh, I think it's... Nope, not going.
Remember, we used to have a backup for the internet?
Mm-hmm. Dr. Tom, yeah. I'm really trying to cut you off, but I can't find you. Okay. All right. I think he did. Hey, Dr. Tom. Hang up. Hang up. All right. Let's get through this here real quick. Last night's Concierge Trade Alert for the Dow. 23,245. Okay. Now, the lowest weekly trading zone on the Dow is 23,140. Now those look like they're almost on top of each other, but there's actually, between those two lines, there's 100 points. From 245 down to 145. 100 points. I know. That's why it's just really not a good idea to trade these markets unless, right? On a situation like this, you know, now, if you're new, if you haven't been around for a while, when I say it holds more often than it doesn't, that's just more noise in an overcrowded mind and marketplace. Holds more often than it doesn't. Okay, yeah, fine, fair enough. All right. But the longer you're around, the longer you're exposed to it, the longer you actually, you know, come out of your state of kind of disbelief and just accept. We accept that the sky's blue. It's not a big deal. We've always had blue sky, right? Those words, along with important prices, important areas, are almost always tested. If you had nothing but those two things, you could actually navigate the markets. I'm delighted to tell you that we have some tools that make it a little simpler visually. I mean, on this, pull back to the BBC, the market in its infinite kindness prints a doji. Now, even if you're not a big candlestick fan, you've probably heard of the doji, and you've probably heard that it's supposed to be, you know, a deal. It is. It could be simply a continuation signal, but given the proper context, it can actually be very important. And by context, I mean, after the price moves up and moves into an area where we would anticipate finding resistance, like we did here, to have the market print that 30-minute doji right there touching the BBC, it's almost, it's like somebody flashing you a peace sign at Woodstock. It's that big a deal, I guess. And so getting short, you know, let's see, this candle opened at 23791. So let's say we want to get below that high, below the body of the doji. I mean, pick a number. These markets are just so huge. So 23.7. So let's just call it 23.800, right? No, 23.760. You would need a 200-point stop loss to take this incredibly high probability trade, and of course, in hindsight, I wouldn't be willing to risk that in exchange for this. But see, at the time, we don't know anything about this. We know about this, and we know about that. So, you all know, those who've been around, that this is a business based on probabilities. The moment you try to make it about anything more than a probability, forget about it. The business of trading is not going to work for you. If you attempt to build a trading business on your gut, on, you know, some indicator, some oscillator, some kind of magical, you know, confetti falling from the sky, I'm just trying to help you find a path that will save you years, a lot of money, and just leave you, you know, frustrated and aggravated. I had a mentoring session with someone the other day. Over the last 10 years, they've put about 300,000 into the markets. They haven't found any consistent profitability. Or there were spots along the way. That's how it is. That's what encourages you to keep getting back in, because of sporadic, you know, positive results. It's also why when someone becomes a a member or a passport holder here, we're very, very emphatic about not, hold for me just 1 second, please. All right, let's get through this. Okay, so price pulls back. Okay, all you're dealing with is doji. My point I was making is at some point, okay, it's a business based on probabilities. If that's true, then what you need is a definable edge. Once you have a statistically viable, proven edge, then you got to work on the stuff between your ears so that you're able to actually follow that methodology or strategy. I mean, if it truly gives you a definable edge, then why wouldn't you use it? Because you don't have faith in the fact that whatever it is that it's supposed to happen when, you know, these two planets align and this star shines on a Tuesday kind of thing, magic happens. Okay? All right, there's no magic. So at some point, I mean, you hear over and over, it holds more often than it doesn't, it holds more often than it doesn't. At some point, that understanding moves from your head to your heart. Now, it doesn't mean when it doesn't hold, you're heartbroken. No, it just means you're going to now be trading in the other direction. The good news is when it doesn't hold, like right here, you would have never been lured into taking a long position anyway. See, over here, you pull back, you get a nice little doji right at the BVC, you get this beautiful up candle, right? So you could enter here, knowing that, you know, red and sideways could be an obstacle. You could wait for price to get above it. You could even wait for price to take out these highs. I mean, the open of this candle is 798, 24, 798, and that runs up to 25,000. Huge markets. Okay, so, however, what I'm happy to say is that everything we do, the strategy, the methodology, the weekly trading zones, the alerts, they're all working just fine, as if it was nothing more than another day at the office. The lowest weekly trading zone in the S&P did get taken out. It didn't go down without a fight. That's over here. You know, we came down. These are 30-minute candles, consolidated. We made that run, back to consolidation. Then we dropped significantly below the lowest weekly zone. But as a sign of respect, it did pull back, touch it, wave goodbye. And then when price right here closes back below the BVC, in fact, let's do that right now. I'll show you. Okay. So, there we go. It's a little better. All right. So what time did this happen? This candle is from 1300. You know, did I reset my charts? See, I don't do daylight savings time. So I'm supposed to be in 5, I think. So it's 11:42 here. So it's 2:42. So that would be 14:42. Yes. Yes, my charts are set correctly, time-wise. My charts always reflect the East Coast. All right. So this candle that closed back below the BBC was the 1 to 130 candle. So let me find 1300 over here. Right here. This is the 1300 candle. Okay. Now this candle right here, this 13-minute candle began at 1330. This candle began at 1300. So over here, there's 1300. And there's 1330. That was 1340. Okay, so I'm out of sync on times here. Again, Arizona doesn't do daylight savings time. So UTC 4. I think that's right. So what's this one set on? UTC 5. Okay, so if I take this down to UTC 4, see if that fixes it. Okay, so this candle's printing at 1440. This candle started at 1430. Okay, all right, so we're synced up. Okay, so here, 1300. Here, 1300. All right, let's shrink this down a little bit. Okay. See how this is under 30 minute. See how we went up and we left that big wick sticking up above the zone and the BBC. Okay, this is the 5-minute version of that. There's 1300. There's the high right there. The high was put in during the 1305 to 1310 candle. We come back to the BBC. We get below the BBC. So we can't think about trading abouts when price is below the BBC. Because if we're above the BBC, we only want to go long. If we're below, we only want to go short. Now the 30-minute is saying, if you do anything other than short, that's a counter trend trade. So those are the reasons why you shouldn't be lured into this unless you're intentionally trying to place a counter trend trade. But even still, here price does close above the BBC, but it's still hugging the line, right? It hasn't pulled away. It's shown that it's comfortable here, but it's not giving us any indication of, where it wants to go next after it has a little rest. The other thing that would cause one to be hesitant about going long here is you've got red and falling overhead. Now, price can trade up through red and falling, but if you go look at your historical charts, more often than not, there's usually a struggle battle, if you will. So even though price trades through it, now there's the occasion where it'll slice through it like it's not there. Typically what you see is some kind of little tug of war, as price tries to get higher and tries to get higher and tries to get... In fact, we experienced that last night. I'll scroll back and show it to you. Where was... Oh yeah, right there. Actually, no, this one didn't give a struggle of war. Imagine, if you will, that price just kept, it would turn green and run up and hit it and come off. This actually just failed perfectly. And on this pullback, while it didn't hold, now the degree of times that it's going to hold on the 5-minute compared to the 30 minutes is different. The larger the time frame, the more reliable the signal. And you also want to look at the, it's an entire picture. You got to take a holistic look or holistic view of the market. Understand any number of things like, okay, we're approaching a weekly trading zone. That could turn out to be good support. I mean, we had a nice leg and a retracement and a leg and a retracement, but we get here and price consolidates at the zone until we finally fall away. Now let's get back to where we were. Because if you can understand this, it makes the whole business of learning how to trade so much simpler. If you're still on the hunt, if part of your brain is occupied with, wow, there's got to be some indicator, some oscillator, there's just got to be this one more thing. I can just feel it in my bones. It's got to be out there. Something. As long as you are participating in the hunt, you cannot sit down and enjoy the feast. There's a million things out there. Everything works some of the time. Nothing works all the time. I don't even like that term work, because you see, when the BBC failed to hold right here, because I so often say it holds more often than it doesn't, right? The fact that it failed to hold, I don't see that as, oh my God, it didn't work that time. You see, then it starts to sound like some kind of magic trick. And it's not about that at all. Let me say that again. Price failed to hold on the pullback. I don't see that as a failure. I don't see that as our setup not working. There's not a question of it working or not working. It just is. Most of the time, on your 30-minute, more often than not, price pulls back to the BBC, it's going to hold. That just is. So on the times that it doesn't hold, it doesn't mean it didn't work. In fact, it did a fine job of keeping you from getting into a long trade, which you wouldn't want to get into because the markets went lower. Okay, so over here on the 30-minute, what's going on? Okay, price is trying to revert to the mean. It's printing a green candle. It's below the BBC. Well, that just tells me price is trying to get back to the BBC. Okay. Could we trade that long from here? You could. It's called a counter trend trade. We know that the larger, and there's nothing magical about 30 minutes or 5 minutes. They're just time frames that I chose to get comfortable with. So I sort of have a feel for the rhythm that a 30-minute chart gives me under normal market conditions. And even under these conditions, it's all just exaggerated greatly. See? So Trading with the trend means that you're going to go short when price pulls back to the BBC. It also means you could go short right here because you've pulled back on the 5. The percentage of time that it holds more often than it doesn't, again, the larger the time frame, the more reliable the signal. And that typically goes for any kind of indicator, oscillator, methodology, strategy. You know, when you get you'll hear people say, "When man, I got a monthly signal or a weekly," that's kind of a big deal. All right. So, is price going to pull all the way up to the BBC? It's sure trying. Now, obstacle overhead on this 5-minute chart right there. That's the price at which we had the bearish cross. Price got below the BBC way over here. But it's at the price at which that cross takes place. That becomes the important price, important area. And so on this move up, I would look at that as potential resistance. If price can get above there and this swing high, that's also an obstacle. Then my window of opportunity is going to be right in here. That's got a low, let's call it 25.81 to 26.05. Here, let's make it simple. All right. So 2600. No, I think we can do this. 2580. 2580 to 2600. Okay. But keep in mind, it's counter trend. What else is important? Well, if price is going to rally back to the BBC, because price always reverts to the mean, doesn't mean it's going to do it this time, just means it always reverts to the mean. Where's my BBC on the 30-minute? 2576. 2576. Now, if I believe that this holds more often than it doesn't, because it does, where is that corresponding number on this chart? Right there. 2575. Okay. All right. So, if price were to rally above this and this and the 30-minute BBC, would I can still consider that a window of opportunity, counter trend, although at that point it's going to be above the BBC. You won't have a bullish cross, but what you'll have is a market that is trying to get back to the zone. Price is always trying to get to the zone, whether it's the zone above or the zone below. Every now and then, a couple times here of late, we've had this situation where we don't have another zone below. So this magnetic attraction, if it were to kick in, if I could clearly see price, now remember, it's going to take time for this 30-minute to do all this. I'm starting to print green above the BBC. Is that a head fake? See, it could reach up and touch the zone as it did on this candle and still keep the downtrend intact. So let me just answer that by saying this. I would revisit this situation when the time comes. I don't foresee that being anytime soon. Okay, so while we were talking about the potential of a counter trend long trade, here is the narrative for a potential short trade. Okay, we're already below the BBC. We all really wish we had, just gotten short here, of course. Yeah, but now we're here. So on the 5-minute, is there an opportunity that exists? Well, there is. We just pulled back to the BBC. We had a down close, selling the open of this candle. Nothing wrong with that. But now that entry, we'll call it 25.25. This swing low is at 25.10. So, given the grand scope of the markets right now, 25.25, price is 25.25, yeah, so 25.25. Even if you could take your exit at 25.18. That's a 7-point trade. You've got red falling below you. That's conducive to lower prices. However, you see how it's just started to curl just a little bit, but over here it's still pointing down. So from 25.25 down to the red and falling CFMA1. That's how you balance the 30-minute to the 5-minute. Okay? 30-minute. For a moment there, it looked like it wanted to run up and touch the BBC, maybe even touch the WTZ, but it didn't. And we weren't lured into going long because right here, what was the very thing I was just talking about? It holds more often than it doesn't, and so once again we get a bearish cross. Price pulls away, price pulls back. Now, some will say because of the training you get in the live trading room, and it's good that you say this because it means that really was cemented. Okay, well, don't I have to wait for this candle to close before I can go short? As a discretionary trader, you can elect to go short or long anytime that you want. See? And this is back to, do you believe it with your head or do you believe it with your heart? Because it just is. The sky blue, we talked about that earlier, the sky being blue. Do you believe that with your head, with your heart? I guess the combination of the two, right? Okay. Gravity, we all accept it. We know if we step off the edge of a tall building, it probably won't end well. We don't question it. We don't ponder it, I don't think. And every time we encounter the edge of a building or a steep cliff, do we have this mental discussion? I wonder what'll happen if I step off this cliff. You reckon I'll fall like Ma and Pa did? Or whatever, right? So at some point there becomes that transference of these basic concepts about how markets work, where it's not about believing it or not believing it. It just is. I don't believe gravity or disbelieve gravity. It just is. There's a few fundamental truths that I've discovered, that I can hang my hat on. They give me a framework that brings clarity to what many see as chaos. Okay? So, we said that even though we had red and falling, that is bearish in and of itself. But it can also, see, remember I mentioned how it's starting to curl up? Over here it's still pointed down. You're always going to get your initial signal on the smaller time frame. The larger time frame is more reliable, but you're going to get the information more first on the smaller time frame, but you're also going to get false starts. Okay? All right. So price comes down. If you were short this move, should you have gotten out at red and falling? Well, again, that's entirely up to you. My biggest concern is just simply the swing low that was put in there. Not a concern. Again, it just is. When price got to this level the last time, buyers liked that price so much they were willing to take it up some 20-something points. And then it came right back down to the same area. So the people that were willing to buy this price before, did they take profit? If so, maybe they rebuy. If they stayed in it, maybe they dollar cost average and buy some more here. Okay, but ask yourself this. Now, it took a lot of people, or a lot of buying, I should say, to drive price up those 20, 25 points. Where did these people, institutions, computers, where do they have their stop loss? Probably somewhere below that swing low, right? Now, don't think I'm about to launch into this, they're going to run their stops kind of stuff, because that's just nonsense. In an illiquid penny stock market, that can be done. Okay, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen here. This is a purely electronic exchange. There's nobody barking anything out in the pit. All right. So if we take out this low, then the next area for support is right there. Okay. So again, people that bought this and failed to take profit, I won't even talk about pain thresholds. I'll just say, where's the logical place for them to have a stop loss? That's somewhere in here. Okay, so if prices do drop, if buyers stop buying, price careens out of control to the downside, would the stop losses established by the people going along here, as those stops get triggered, would that have an impact on the market? Yes. Not because somebody ran somebody's stop. It's just because that's how markets work. If you're long, to get out of that position, you have to sell. So even though you're long at heart, you reach this pain threshold, you got to sell to get out of that position, or you'll blow up your account. And so does that add increased selling pressure to a market that's already falling? Yes, that's why it seems as though markets tend to accelerate to the downside. You know, on the way up, it's kind of a grind. You have great days, mediocre days, occasional bad day, but you just grind your way up that hill. But as we can see, the speed at which we can decline trumps everything. So that's where we are on the S&P 500 E-mini daily chart. We've exceeded the 100% Fibonacci price extension, and we've highlighted potential areas for support based on nothing any more scientific than previous support levels. I promise you, there's people out there selling some magic number where the market's going to find a bottom, and they're getting paid for it. And guess what? Some of them are going to be right. Either this guy or this guy or this guy. And all their clients and all their subscribers are going to go, wee, I found the Wizard of Oz. It's a business based on probabilities. Do yourself a favor, never make it about anything more than a probability. Is it okay to want to have the highest probability that you can have? Absolutely. But what Michael and I found over the years is the way to gain a greater degree of reliability and high probability was not more stuff. Turns out it was less stuff that gave us clarity, that gave us understanding, and that allowed us to send out an alert last night, the S&P. Consider being short 2650, I think it was, and 2726. And the Dow, 253245. This morning, we all heard, an opinion that the market had found a bottom. It had turned. It was just going higher. I've just learned not to be so quick to make those judgments. Perhaps just a little more cautious. But based upon the methodology and the strategy that we teach, it would be wrong for me to suddenly just to be polite, go, yeah, you're probably right, And I don't want it to be combative in any kind of a way, but until I can look you in the eye and say, I think we're going higher, price has to be trading above the BBC. And when we have our lowest weekly trading zone right overhead, I understand the power that has to, hold price at bay. Now, that's just a line on a chart, and that's just a number. So it really holds no power over the market. I just know that the market respects important prices in important areas. So in good conscience, for me to say, yes, I definitely think we have potentially found a bottom and we'll move higher from here, price would have to be above the BBC. And in this case, it would have to be above the weekly trading zone. And call me picky, but I would also want it to be above this area of resistance from last night. Let's see if I can. Oh, I did it. I did draw it. Okay. Well, fair enough. All right. Okay, let me see what's in the chat box. The time posted when highlighted is when the candle starts or when it ends? When it starts, Tim. 5-minute BBC and 30-minute red and falling are at the same level. Okay, I hadn't noticed that. Let me take a peek. Oh, there we go. Okay. So, what we got here? 25. What do we got there? 25.15. And so I'm taking your word for it. Yeah, it looks to me like my chart's acting up. Okay, so while we got the 5-minute back up again. Come on. All right. So we got to pull back to the BBC, which sends us down to support, right? Swing low. Now, see, this thing's still red, right? But I explained that, well, the important thing was this swing low. Buyers liked it, Buyers liked it 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes ago. Plus, they liked it last night. So, you have to see this bounce, okay? So we go back to the 30, we go, okay, all right, we pull back to the BBC on the 5 minute, gave me a beautiful opportunity to short down to support, where I knew I should probably, tighten up my stops or be out because, well, support leads to higher prices when it holds. Resistance, lower prices when it holds, right? Okay, so now, remember we had a conversation on this candle when it was green. Remember this candle was green for a while. Okay, is price trying to pull back to the BBC? Well, we had a game plan if it did, and if it got above it, right? Remember? Okay. So it's trying again. Is it going to fail again in the same way that it did last time at the BBC? Well, there's, I guess, 3 minutes left in the life of this candle. Probably the closest thing you come to a high probability move in these markets is, from here at 25.32. If you were just going to short it here because you believe that holds more often than it doesn't, and I don't suggest that you do that. Just pointing it out, if you did, leap of faith, I guess they call it, you still need a 10-point stop. I don't even look at, Tim, I don't use the slingshot. I mean, what is it saying? It's saying red and falling. So that might have been your point. It's like I'm aware of the slingshot in sort of in a peripheral sort of way. I mean, over here on the 30 minute, it supports a climb back to the BBC because it's blue and climbing and above the 50-yard line. Now, if I could just get it to revert back to its normal color. Come on. All right. So, green on the 30, pulls us back on the 5. And again, Tim, this may have been, you may have been actually just trying to point this out. We're red and falling below the 50-yard line. That's as bearish as it gets. Now, this candle is going to close in less than a minute. So, what one could do is one could short the open of the next candle. Once it starts to print red, or once it takes out the low of this candle, looks like this candle is going to go red, or it's flirting with it. So potential entry around 25.17, down to maybe 25.10. So we'll just see what happens with the open of the next candle. 30 minutes says lower prices. The 5 minutes says lower prices. Slingshot on the 5 minutes says lower prices. The only thing that disagrees is the slingshot on the 30 minute. So again, I look at the slingshot kind of just out of my peripheral vision to a degree. All right, so we got a new candle open on the 5. Take out the low right there, which you just did, of the previous candle. Then, there's potentially 5 to 10 points of movement back down to this little rectangle area that I drew. Now, all we did just now, us, you and I together, we simply identified what the next high probability move should be. 30 minutes says lower prices, 5 minutes says lower prices, 5 minute slingshot says lower prices. The only thing out of agreement, and I can't get it to change back to its normal color, but you see it's above the 50-yard line. And last time I looked, it's climbing, so I'm sure it's blue. And here we are, see on the 5 minute. So we've come back down to that rectangle. Is it possible we continue down to this swing low? Sure. And then maybe even this swing low? Sure. Could we take out that swing low? Yeah. Now, although we watched it happen in real time, I mean, in hindsight, isn't that wick sticking up above the BBC, isn't that just kind of a beautiful thing? Now, you understand on a 5-minute, from a 5-minute perspective, that you've got potential support here and here, but bigger picture on a 30-minute, I mean, every time price has come down into this area, man, it got rejected. Came back, got rejected. Came back, hasn't gotten rejected yet. This time. Okay. You guys have been great. I'll be here all week. Don't forget to tip your waitress. Good word for the day. Stand by. Limitations. Isaiah 54:3 says, "You shall expand to the right and to the left." Sometimes we impose limitations on ourselves that prevent us from expanding to the right or the left. Today, God may be saying to you what he said to his people, Israel. Enlarge the place of your tent and let them stretch out the curtains of your dwellings. Do not spare, lengthen your cords and strengthen your stakes, for you shall expand to the right and to the left. That was in that book, that little coffee table book that came out years ago, The Prayer of Jabez, if I'm not mistaken. Most people automatically stay within the lines, even if those lines have been arbitrarily drawn or terribly out of date. Most limitations we face are actually not imposed on us by others. We place them on ourselves. Lack of creativity often falls into that category. If you want to become more creative, challenge your boundaries. One inventor said, "All human development, no matter what form it takes, must be outside the rules. Otherwise, we would never have anything new." When you want something that you don't have, you must be willing to do something you haven't done yet. You might say, "I don't have the education," or "I don't have the talent that these other people have." The good news is you don't need someone else's talent or someone else's education. When God made you, he deposited within you everything required to fulfill your destiny. You just need to unlock it and put it to work. In Genesis 1:26, God said, "Let us make man in our image according to our likeness." Then God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over every living thing that moves on earth." Now, note the word likeness. Let us make man in our image according to our likeness. So if this is true, that makes you an image bearer of God, created in his likeness. You have divinely ordained DNA. You're capable of being creative. So whatever limitations that you've placed on yourself, shake them off. That's our good word for the day. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't taken a trial yet, go to eminitrainingschool.com. You spend 2 hours a day for 5 days in our live training room. Use our charts, use our indicators. participate in a one-on-one mentoring session. Everything available to the CFRN partners, passport holders, available to you for 1 full week, no credit card required. Just go to eminitrainingschool.com. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading Emini Futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.